week's episode of The Graveyard Shift is brought to you by Darren S. Darren is a fan of the show and suggested the featured movie on Facebook. Thanks, Darren. It's fans like you that helps keep the show going, and we really do appreciate it. If you have a movie suggestion for us or would like to help support the show in other ways, we'll tell you how you can do that at the end of the episode. And now, let's begin. My name is Sheldon, and this is The Graveyard Shift, horror with Sheldon and Mike. Welcome to episode 4 of the Graveyard Shift Horror Podcast, where each week we watch a movie from the horror category and break it down for you into easy-to-digest, bite-sized pieces. We'll talk about some production info, what we liked, what we didn't like, plus any other fun things we can cram in. I'm your host, Sheldon, and I am not working the Graveyard Shift alone. Please say hello to the Dellamorte to my Dellamore, my co-host, Mike.
Hola.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I have no idea how I am after seeing this movie.
I know what people are going to say. My line about the Dellamorte to my Dellamore doesn't make much sense, but it will after we talk about this movie for a bit. So, Mike, I'm excited. We're on episode 4, and we had our very first movie suggestion from a fan of the show.
We do?
Yes, so happy to be basing an episode on that. Thank you again for the suggestion, Darren. Or should we be thanking him for this? That's the question right now.
So we have a fan.
We do have a fan. Someone who actually took an interest in the show. Can you believe it?
I'm having my doubts, but go on.
Well, Mike, anyway, why don't you tell our listeners what we watched this week?
Today's episode is called Si può scavare,
which is Italian for...
Can you dig it?
I can, because what movie did we watch?
We watched Dellamorte Dellamore, or, as it was released later, The Cemetery Man.
Yes.
This movie translations are messed up.
This movie is famous, or should I say infamous, in the horror genre. I know we're going to talk about some details soon enough, but without getting into too many, what do you think about this movie?
It had a neat concept and then took a massive dump all over that concept. And then went off into what I could only imagine if Monty Python tried to do a zombie movie but didn't have any comedic talent.
It was abstract, to say the least. It's certainly like no other zombie movie I've ever seen. We'll get into whether that's a good thing or a bad thing in a little bit.
I mean, I could have recorded a better concept of this with a friend following me to a graveyard, recording me on his phone.
So this was the first time you saw this movie, right?
Yeah, and probably the last.
So, yes, we get to hear some genuine first-time exposure comments from you.
Yes, now I know why some people talk about the first time being confusing, frightening, and maybe a little painful.
Oh, guys, you should have saw some of the text messages I was getting from Mike while he was watching this. I think like every one of them started off with, "What the fuck?"
I live tweeted my viewing to Sheldon, which might be even good for me to read.
I was at work while you were watching this, and I kept getting messages popping up on my screen, and I was just cracking up. People, like my coworkers, had no idea what I was laughing at.
Oh, yeah.
So this wasn't a first time for me. I had actually seen this movie before. I first heard of this one sometime in the late 90s. I used to visit this website called Dan's House of Horrors, which no longer exists. It was just a collection of horror movie reviews, and this was one of the featured movies. It was recommended, but they did say it was hard to find, so I tried at the time, but I couldn't find it. DVDs were still in its infancy, so
And even they refused to take this movie.
Yeah. You can find this movie on DVD now, but on Amazon, but I think it costs like $75 to get.
It's not a DVD print, though. Like, it was obviously like, is it like committed to DVD, or is it that somebody took a VHS copy, scanned it on their computer, and then burned that on a DVD?
I have no idea. And I'm pretty sure from what I read, it wasn't even zoned for North America. I think it was like the European zone.
The PAL standard?
Yeah, I took a look for this one, like I said, years ago, but I didn't find it. Years later, I was at a video store near my hometown that was closing down. It was selling off all of its movies. It was $1 for VHS tapes and $2 for DVDs, I think. So, of course, I was driving by and saw it. I went inside, took a look around. I started searching through this basket of VHS tapes, and what did I find? Not one, but 2 copies of Cemetery Man. Of course, I bought both of them, plus a stack of other VHS tapes and DVDs. I actually still have the VHS copies. I wish I still had a VCR because I could play them on. I rewatched this on YouTube. You can find this one on YouTube, which is good. The last VCR that I had was an old DVD VCR dual unit, but it stopped working some time ago.
I remember having one of those. I would rent movies and then copy them.
Yeah. Maybe I should go to like a thrift store or something and try to find a working VCR. But anyway, it would be nice. But like I said, you can find it on YouTube. So if you haven't seen this movie already, you can just check it there. Just search Cemetery Man. You'll find the full version there. And unedited as well, which was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, apparently... Well, that's the thing. Apparently YouTube only notices if there's boobs in the movies if someone actually watches it.
Yes. Someone actually has to complain about it. And why would you complain about that?
I know there's nothing in this movie to complain about as far as the nudity goes.
No, there certainly is not. So this movie was released in 1994. It's an Italian film classed as a horror comedy fantasy. It had a budget of $4 million US and had a box office return of approximately $254,000. Which actually makes it the lowest grossing film of all the films we've covered on the show so far.
Oh my god, that means Hollow Mountain was a raving success compared to this.
Yeah, if you adjust for inflation, Beast of Hollow Mountain actually made more money than this movie.
Gosh.
It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 63% for critics and 78% for audience. So it's actually well liked by the audience, actually.
Just only by people who don't pay for things.
The popular horror site Bloody Disgusting actually gives this movie a 5 out of 5.
Well, that's a little high praise.
It's only known as Cemetery Man in North America. To the rest of the world, it's called Dellamorte Dellamore, Italian for of love, of death. And see? I told you that would make sense later, what I said, but it doesn't really, but whatever.
I am the love to your death.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. Don't analyze things so much. Jesus.
That's my stupid need to pay attention.
In Spain, it has a weird title. The Spanish title actually translates to My Fiance is a Zombie, which really makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to get engaged for... I mean, there was one guy who kind of wanted to get engaged, but everybody got killed before anything was officiated, so...
So, as for the plot of this movie, the caretaker of a small Italian cemetery searches for love and his purpose in life, while he and his mentally challenged assistant defend themselves and the town from the dead who keep rising from the grave to eat the flesh of the living. So right away you can tell it's a little different than the typical zombie movie.
Yes, that is true.
So it stars Rupert Everett, who's actually has a decent filmography under his name. You remember he was Dr. Claw in the live-action Inspector Gadget movie?
Yes, I do, because that's a stupid movie where we got to see his face right away.
Yeah, so much for that gimmick. I know him best as Prince Charming from the Shrek movies. But I think after the first time watching this movie, I'll just always refer to him as Cemetery Man.
I think it was on an episode of Duckman.
Yeah, he was actually. You're right. Oh, I love Duckman. I haven't watched Duckman in so long.
Yeah, that show was just so friggin' great. It needs to be... that needs to be brought back. You know they're bringing back Animaniacs?
Yeah, I heard about that. That's a good one, too.
I'd like to see them do that with Duckman. It'd be good to see Jason Alexander in a show that actually is, good.
Yep. So the movie also stars Anna Falchi, who plays 3 characters in the film, and all 3 are simply referred to as she. She has several Italian films in her resume, and it also stars Francois Haji Lazaro, who plays Nagi. He is a French actor and musician. He's been in a few French and Italian movies and has been the frontman for 2 different French rock bands.
Wow, so he doesn't just look like Hodor, he also in his real life is just like the guy from Hodor.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to make it my personal mission right now that I'm going to find some songs by this guy.
Well, that seems to be the end of the production notes, unless you have anything else.
I do not.
So we shall go to the likes.
Yes. So, Mike, let's go with you first. Tell me something you liked about this movie.
I like that this girl looks like Summer Glau from Firefly, but if she showed her tits, and if Summer Glau had tits.
Yes. I believe that was one of your texts that you sent me while you're watching this, that this girl looks like Summer Glau with a better body.
Yes, and revealing it.
Yes, she had no problem showing that off.
Oh, it was so good. What about you for likes?
Well, first of all, and I got a feeling I know what you're going to say as soon as I say this. For my likes, first of all, the story. While I totally understand it was confusing as hell, at least in spots, but at least it was original. Most zombie movies at the time were basically the same plot. This one certainly broke the mold, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I suppose
the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like a failed Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it was very surreal, but like I said, at least for the time, it was something different.
Yeah, give it that.
Zombie movies during, by the time the mid-90s came around, zombie movies had gotten a bit stale.
Yeah, they're all just this big survival quest. This guy is just like the zombies. Yeah, they're no big fucking deal. I mean, you just shoot them and they're gone. But really, what is the point of life? Especially when it doesn't end after.
Yeah. And I like the zombies. These zombies were kind of like Return of the Living Dead, where they were intelligent, they spoke, they still remembered everything about who they were.
Yeah, it was a good concept they did fuck all with.
Yeah.
It's like the zombies don't escape, that like the mayor doesn't run for office again. I guess he tried to, but his re-election campaign was cut short by a guy who's just like, I can shoot you. It doesn't care if you're the fucking mayor. You're the ex-mayor.
The mayor zombie actually says that. You can't kill me. I'm the mayor.
Ex-mayor. That was some witty lines.
Yeah.
I guess I gotta say, for my second and probably final like, is that Nagi looks like Hodor and Jim Norton had a baby with Uncle Fester, drank during a pregnancy, and then dropped him on his head when he was born. That's about as far as I can go for a like. Only because he reminds me of better people. Mm-hmm. Like, I got nothing else about Nagi to like, but what about you? While we're staying positive.
Yes, let's stay positive for another while, at least. I gotta say, I like the effects and the gore in this movie.
They were good.
Considering the budget, they were pretty good. Some of the kills were fantastic. The zombies and the people. The zombies look great. They actually look like what a recently dead person would look like.
They did.
And any scenes where a person got bitten or was being eaten by a zombie looked fantastic.
Yeah, they looked like a person actually got bit.
Mm-hmm. It was really done well. I don't know who did the effects for this movie, and if I wasn't so lazy, I'm sure I could easily look it up.
They should have worked on the friggin' script because they were damn good on their special effects.
Yeah, it was. That was probably for me the highlight of the movie was the effects. So since you said you don't have any more likes, I guess I'll finish off what I liked about it.
Sure.
So there was two scenes in particular that I loved, and one of them leads into the other. So I've got to mention this. The Grim Reaper. The fucking Grim Reaper, Death himself, shows up in this movie. And probably the coolest looking version of him I've ever seen in the movie.
He is pretty awesome. He is
so freaking cool.
Iconic, classic. They didn't try anything really new with him, but they nailed what you would expect him to be.
Yes. And starts off as a statue. And then... I thought
he was a pile of ashes and burnt leaves and books and shit. I thought that's what he was made from.
Oh, I thought I saw like a Grim Reaper. I know the lead character, Francesco, was burning some leaves or something, and we saw some swirling ashes, but I thought for sure that there was a statue of the Reaper first.
No. What it was, like, at least, like, from the points where I could pay attention, a reverse shot of, like, burnt paper being blown in the wind. So it's materializing into this spectral hooded shape.
Yeah.
And then you hear the voice of death commanding him, like, stop killing my children.
I thought I saw a statue first. I could be just an idiot. Who knows? But anyway, I know it was just, when you see him materialize, it's just probably like just a medical skeleton that they had wired up with a bunch of stuff on it. But the thing is wearing this ratty looking cloak, is holding a scythe, and it has these huge black bird wings. It's incredible. And it has what, for me, was probably the best line in the movie. You just alluded to it. If you don't want the dead coming back to life, why don't you just kill the living? Shoot them in the head. And that leads into the next part and what I loved about this movie, because Francesco does just that. He goes on a fucking killing spree, just driving around shooting people in the head.
Total Son of Sam.
Yeah. Then he walks through a hospital originally to visit his friend, but then shoots several people while he's there. And he's just so cold about it. It's unbelievable. Just the scene is just totally out of control. As he's killing people, like you see him later, like a little montage of him killing people, then crossing their names out of the phone book. It's just out of control. I loved it. Just such a good scene.
Yeah, so when I see these names show up on my worksheet tomorrow, I don't have to worry about them showing up later.
Yeah. Oh my God. He's just like, he goes through so much, he just finally loses it, and it's like, oh, well, the Grim Reaper told me to shoot the living, so what the hell?
You know what? I tried to come up with a line about how life is worth living, but you know what? Nihilism suits me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like that. That was good. But with that being said, I think I've got what I liked about this movie taken care of. So, let's move into the fun stuff. Mike, well, you start us off. What did you not like about this movie?
I mean, like, do we go in order of importance or in chronological order? This is just, I mean, one of my biggest dislikes is Nagi. He's a fucking goof, and it's like, I mean, I've seen movies with good, competent sidekicks, like Lord of the Rings, Samwise Gamgee. The original 89 Batman, Bob. I mean, a great sidekick to the Joker. And then Michael Caine, no, not Michael Caine, who the hell was the guy from, who the hell was the original Alfred?
Oh, God, I can't remember his name. The actor's name? No, I don't know.
I think he was in, Michael Gough. Yeah,
okay.
He was in 1958's Dracula, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Christopher Lee Dracula?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now I got to look that up.
Yeah, Michael Gough. He was in Dracula.
What character did he play in that?
I think he played not Harker, the guy, Nina's husband, Arthur Homewood.
Shut up. That was him?
Yeah, Mina. And then like he goes after her, and you hear that beautiful music. Yeah, Michael Gough was Arthur.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yep. So he was a great sidekick helping Dr. Helsing kill Dracula, and then he was a great sidekick helping Batman kill the Joker. So that guy knows how to be a sidekick. This French, Italian DJ, whatever the fuck you called him, doesn't. This guy is just a shitty sidekick. He's stuffing his face full of food at night, which, you know, by now, he's done this. This isn't a new thing for him. It is established that the dead rise every fucking night. You think he would make the rounds, or at least lock the fucking door, so that if they do, he does decide to take a night off and let them spill out into the town, because again, there's no sense of loyalty or propriety in this shit bag, that he would at least lock the door to save his own ass. But no, these things sneak up on him. He knows this is happening.
Yes. There's no reason they should have been surprised by any zombies in this movie.
And then he has this stupid encounter with the mayor's daughter where, like, for no reason, he pukes on her. Because I guess, like, oh, girls make me so nervous, so blah.
Are you honestly going to sit there and tell me you've never puked on a girl?
I think they'd have to get close enough to me for me to do that.
Oh.
It's less about intent and more about opportunity. But
that'd be cute if it wasn't so sad.
And like he puked on her, and then like everyone is just looking aside, and then like they keep having their conversation. It was just completely bizarre. And then this guy shows up, and essentially it's like, "Hey, Bobby. Hi, Ken. I just got puked on. Want to go for a ride? Sure. Jump in." And he takes off with her on the motorcycle while she's got puked on. It's like, I just got puked on. Well, sounds like you've had a bad day. She gets phenomenally killed.
Oh my god, that was such a good scene.
And he just rips off her head and stuffs it into a TV. And then like he kisses her after ripping off her head. Like, you know that these things, like, I mean, like, they're zombies. You don't do any fluid contact with the zombie. But apparently in this universe, like, getting bit doesn't do shit, because the other guy tries to fuck a zombie and gets bit, and I mean, like, that's just like trailing off to something else. But yeah, Nagi's a fucking moron. Like, he's a liability and an imbecile.
I like how Nagi made it to your list of likes and dislikes.
Only because his appearance reminded me of better characters.
Well, it leads into a good segue for me, because my first dislike also made it to my likes list as well. Because for my first dislike, I have the story. I know I said for my likes, at least it was an original story. It kind of was something different than all the other zombie movies at the time. But Jesus Christ. I've watched this movie at least 4 times now, and I'm still not entirely sure what the hell was going on.
Yeah, because it's a story with no plot.
Oh my god.
Unlike the cemeteries.
Yeah. But yeah, the story, some people actually, praise this movie for its story, that it was so surreal and left you wondering, like, what the ending is kind of like. You're not even sure if anything that happens in this movie at the end actually happened.
Yeah. To which I would have to say, as Inigo Montoya would say, you keep using the word story, but I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's like, it's a story with no plot.
Yep.
So that is just completely fucked up. And then, for another dislike, the completely impromptu slaughter scene of the motorcycles. The motorcycles all get run over by a bus, which then goes over a cliff. And like apparently it's just like I don't know who wasn't looking or if there was like a what the hell caused this, because it kind of spaced for a second. Because usually whenever it shows a motorcycle on the road, it's just like a whole bunch of like, hey, here's some nature shots, and look, we had a crane with a camera on it. So then like everybody like crashes and dies. So apparently Cemetery Man's just like, well,
a whole motorcycle gang, the mayor's daughter, a busload of Boy Scouts.
and
just goes over a cliff.
And we get to see the bus like run over her, like split her in fucking half.
Yep.
And I don't even know how there was a body to bury, since we clearly saw her get squashed. So apparently she regenerated enough just to get buried.
Little suggestion for listeners out there: if you ever have a family member or friend that dies from, first of all, being in a motorcycle accident and then having her body run over by a bus, probably I don't advise a glass see-through casket.
Yeah, that's like the second part. Like, okay, they buried the gang with their motorcycles, and she gets a glass coffin like Snow fucking White.
Is that a thing in Italy? If you die in like a vehicle accident, did he bury you with your vehicle?
It's like, do you just get buried with things that were around you? I mean, like, in the glass coffin, like, she's not under a witch's curse.
Oh,
just give her a friggin' pint. I mean, like, what's the point of a glass coffin? You're throwing dirt on it. No one's going to see it.
Which is so weird, because I love the scene leading up to it. Like, the whole accident, that was just total chaos, total pandemonium. It was a great scene.
If it had anything else to contribute.
Yeah, but it was the cause of a lot of what the fuck moments.
Yeah, so I guess, like, it's less of a dislike and, like, what the fuck was the point?
Yeah.
So what about you? What else was on your list?
Well, for my next dislike, the police inspector.
Oh.
Have you ever seen a less competent policeman?
There's... She's kind of like an Italian version of Inspector Clouseau.
Well, if anyone needs an example of what I'm talking about, there's the scene where Francesco is rampaging through the hospital, shooting random people. He actually runs into the inspector while he's there, who warns him to watch out because there's a maniac on the loose killing people, and says, "Oh good, you've got a gun to protect yourself." If you hear, like, you get a report that there's someone in the hospital just running around shooting people, and then you run into a guy holding a gun, I think I would hope to say that, I'm no genius, but I would hope that I would put two and two together.
How about you? How about, since I'm an officer of the law, you hand me your gun just in case you are not the killer, but only trying to help stop the killer. Just in case.
Yeah.
How about let's find him, and if I'm in trouble, I'll give you this gun back. Otherwise, how about you just follow me, because you're probably going to be my big suspect.
It was just such a ridiculous line. Like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it.
And I guess for another dislike is just about every character played by the Summer Glau lookalike.
Oh, you mean all three characters that she played that had no names? They're all just referred to as she?
Yeah. I mean, every character she plays is just a despicable person. One is this lady who keeps mourning over her husband, ranting and raving about how great he was in bed.
Yep.
And then she apparently has a heart attack from the deep dicking she gets from this guy. And, which, I mean, like, it's a great way to see her tits. Great movie. And then she gets bitten by a zombie, which, again, makes, like, very little sense. Because, you think if someone's rushing at you, you'd at least, like, get up and find some, create some space. But it's typical Hollywood, it's typical horror movie stupid victimism, where you just decide to fall down on the ground and scream and hope that they'll pity you. And then, like, it turns out, like, she had, like, a heart attack, like, in the middle of sex. Because I guess she was just, like, despite how good her husband was in bed, apparently she never got, like, a real dicking before.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's Rupert Everett. Like, doesn't he look like a guy that could cause someone to have a heart attack while doing them?
Yeah. And then she wakes up, and he thinks that she's dead, so he shoots her. And then she comes back for real, and instead of shooting her this time, he decides, okay, maybe now I'll fuck you. And then she bites him, because of course she's a zombie. And then she shows up again as the mayor's aide, who... Oh, hold on. I didn't say this. The first stupid thing that made me hate this bitch was that, like, she took, like, this red scarf when he shows her, he gives her a tour of the ossuary. She throws this red scarf over her face, and then, like, through her widow's veil, and this scarf that she's wrapped around his face like she's waterboarding him, she kisses him. And apparently she gets so worked up, she has to, like, bolt out.
Oh, my God. She had absolutely no interest in him at all. She was ignoring him while he's trying to talk to her. As soon as he mentions the tomb, that the cemetery has a great tomb.
I have a great ossuary.
Ossuary. And as soon as he says that, sploosh.
And then she shows up as the mayor's aide, as the replacement mayor's aide, which, you know, like, the mayor will be, like, my final dislike. But the second mayor, she's his aide, doesn't recognize him, and yet, like, he completely be like, oh shit, didn't I kill you? What are you talking about? And then, like, completely establishing that she's a different person, immediately jumps his bones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just need to fuck you. And then she's just like, by the way, I heard you're impotent. Oh yeah, that's another dislike. Apparently this stupid rumor goes around that he's impotent because when the first girl dies, the guy's like, well, she died during sex, so I know I don't have to worry about you. Why? Well, everyone knows you're impotent. How does everyone know he's impotent?
Well, didn't he say he was the one that started that rumor?
Did he? I mean, I wasn't paying complete attention. I couldn't. I had to protect my sanity.
I think he told Nagi he was the one that he said, I was the one that, don't mind them, I'm the one that started that rumor because, you know, you can never be too different.
So he wanted to, what, like, be, like, less threatening to girls or something?
I have no idea. I don't get it, but, God, this fucking movie.
That's so fucking bad. Like, it deserved a bomb. But, yeah, so what else is your dislikes before I get into more of mine?
Well, I thought you were going to go into it because when you talk about the mayor's assistant, is there something in particular that she wanted him to do?
Oh, yes. Oh, this just keeps going on. I tried to limit myself, but no, we're going to go on and on. All right, so the second form that she takes, she heard that he was impotent, and then before he could say, no, that was just a rumor, she's just like, good, because I can never be with a man who has an erection. They startle and frighten me. Just like, dude, just leave your undies on while you finger blast her or eat her out. I mean, she doesn't have to see your penis. You can still do sexy things with her, and then you can go jerk off afterwards and be like, man, I did all this stuff, and then it'll be your spank bank material.
Just give her a blindfold. Jesus.
Yeah. Tell her, there's this great cucumber that you found in the market, and doesn't it feel great?
Oh, my God. So...
And then, what the hell happens to her? Oh yeah, this is why she is like the fucking worst. He goes to a doctor to get his dick cut off. Like, why not just don't use it with her? Like, the fucking reasoning behind this is mental. So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor's just like, you know what? I don't feel like cutting off a dick, so I'm gonna give you an injection that will make you impotent. Like, I guess it's saltpeter or something. And then he comes back and he's just like, well, I have a useless cock, so let's do stuff. And she's like, oh, by the way, I was raped by the mayor. And, the first time I didn't like it, but the second time he was much nicer. And it turns out I like dick. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to marry him, but don't worry, I still love you.
That was such a fucked up moment. Like, basically she could only be with a man that's impotent because she's afraid of penises. Then she gets raped by her boss and then decides, oh, you know what? Actually, dicks are kind of awesome.
Her worst fear of a dick being used violently against her. And she's like, wait a second, that's not so bad. I mean, like, this is like, not every movie has to be like a social justice moment or like women's rights. But still, this tells you that something is seriously mentally wrong when the director throws in a pro-rape joke.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great message.
Yeah, it turns out all these women, what? Is that supposed to be a cure for lesbianism too? It's like, you know what? They just need a good dick, and then they'll see the point.
Yeah. Literally.
They'll see the point going in. And they won't mind.
So I'm glad you mentioned this scene because that actually leads into something that I really disliked about this movie. It's when Francesco actually visits the doctor. I don't flinch easily, but good God, that scene. So he is so in love with this woman, he's willing to get his dick cut off. And even though he doesn't go through with it, when a doctor gets those shears, holy crap. The first time I watched this movie, based on all the other craziness that happened up to that point, I fully thought it was going to happen.
And we were going to see it.
Yeah, I would not have been surprised at all. Instead, the doctor, like you said, the doctor talks him into getting an injection.
He doesn't so much talk him into it as does it against his will.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not doing this. I'm just going to give you this injection that's going to basically just make you impotent for a few months.
I am just so wiped tonight. I could just not bring myself to sew you up.
But so the doctor gives him this injection in the nuts. Gives him an injection in the nuts with like a 4-inch needle to make him impotent. And God,
seriously, the size of this needle, it looks like something you use to trank horses.
Let me tell you. There wouldn't have to be an injection. Stab me in the nuts with that thing, and I can guarantee you it's not getting up for a while. Holy crap.
Yeah, and like there's just no consistency in anything in this. And like the mayor, who's like he's a worse mayor than Adam West. He just his daughter gets puked on, and he keeps talking. She gets hit by a bus, and he's talking about like, oh man, I can't believe I lost my daughter in an election year. And then after Hodor rips her fucking head off and stubs it in the TV set.
Are we just calling him Hodor now? You may as well.
All he says is his name. He's fucking Hodor.
He says half of his name. He's like if Hodor went around going ho.
Well, he probably would, but he got slapped enough times, so then he's just like, oh, Hodor.
Oh, poor Hodor. Now I'm sad.
Especially when we get to find out what his name is.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good zombie kill. Fuck it. I should make that my kill of the week. Fuck this movie. Remember Hodor from Game of Thrones?
Spoiler alert.
But, yeah, and then the mayor, he just completely, he wants his daughter disinterred so that he can take her picture. Usually, you would have someone just, kneeling at someone's grave. If you wanted to do something that brazen to lull sympathy out of morons. But no, he's just like, you know what, it's just not extreme enough. I want people to know I'm really suffering and grieving. And that I will always be consumed by this and not be able to do my job so that people will know to elect me.
He's such a piece of shit.
So, dig up my daughter so either I can kneel over her coffin or be cradling her corpse. And then, of course, they find out that she's alive or alive undead. And immediately, he's happy to see her. And then she's like, by the way, I want to marry this big lumbering lummox. And he's just like, this moron? No way. And then she's like, come on. And he goes, over my dead body, which is something you don't say to a zombie.
If you ever find yourself in a horror movie, you know what? In real life, just don't say that line ever. Because you're just tempting fate if you ever say over my dead body.
Yeah, because then just be like, okay. And then, again, there's no, I mean, this is like tying in with my final dislike. There's no fucking consistency because he rips off her head. Hodor rips off her head out of her grave, and she's like talking to him and like kissing him without biting him because I guess she just likes guys that barf on her. I mean, it just shows how sweet they are. And then she like follows him around like a fucking like a killer tomato. Which is probably a movie that's going to end up on this podcast. And then he sticks her in the TV where you think like she must be implanted on something so she doesn't roll out, because the TV got shot out, which in one of the good scenes when Hodor's watching TV, Rupert tries to talk to him, but then they get attacked by zombies. And then when he fends off all the zombies again, like, with these tiny headphones, you should not be blocking out gunshots. I mean, that close to you, you should be feeling it. But no, he knows it's happening because a zombie collapses on his lap and he shoves it aside. So he knows that a zombie is in the room. And he's just like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm saving your life. I mean, I don't give a fuck. And then the guy sees a zombie on TV, and this is like one of the few times in the movie where I would have done the same thing as him. And he shoots the TV out, Elvis style, because he thought that was another zombie. And then Hodor starts mourning over his TV. And then he takes this beautiful girl's head, who's still talking to him, and plants the head in the TV so he can talk to her and feed her. I don't know what the hell he's feeding her. And then when the father comes in, she flies at him. Like,
I'd really like to have the physics of the zombies in this movie explained to me.
Yeah, apparently, like, well, I guess the heads can fly because they're not weighed down by the body. They weigh less. Science.
Yeah. Who says the show is not educational? I liked how, you know, when the mayor discovers that Nagi is keeping his daughter's like zombified head, and she says she wants to marry Nagi, and he's like, your daughter is just like a disembodied talking head, but Nagi's still not good enough for you.
And she even says, I'm no catch myself.
Yeah.
That really was one of the better scenes, but then completely wrapped around a what the fuck.
That's got to be a blow to the ego, you know?
You think the mayor would be like, oh shit, the dead are coming back. Hey, newspaper guy that I brought here to watch me hug my daughter's corpse. Come over here so you can watch me hug my daughter's still talking head. I mean, like, there's no consistency in this. It's like, everything is wasted opportunities. Like, I don't care if it's absurd, but you can be absurd with a degree of consistency and realism so that the absurdity stands out more.
Oh, you just made me think of something. So, when the...
Wait a second, something I said inspired thought?
It did.
Wow.
True story. So, we see the mayor's daughter's zombified head kills him. But there was another person there with them, right?
Shows up later. Because Cemetery Man and the reporter come in at around the same... No, Cemetery Man comes in, shoots the head, which he should have done the first time. Then Hodor's all sad and crying, and then he shoots the mayor. Because the mayor's been bitten, or maybe he just thinks the mayor's an asshole that made him dig up a body for nothing. And then
Did he shoot the mayor? Because doesn't the mayor come back as a zombie later?
No, Right, he only shot... Yeah. You got that.
Fuck this movie.
Yeah. Maybe he shot him in the chest. I don't know.
It's so inconsistent. Seriously, if you have not watched this movie, folks, you've got to watch it. It is craziness.
Just don't expect good. Like, it is.
No.
Like, it's a bizarre. I there's no words. Although the beginning did make like some bit of an impression on me when the guy's on the phone talking to his friend, and then there's a knock on the door, and then they opens it, and then there's this guy. He's not a zombie. At least he doesn't look like one to me. He's just a guy. He looks like a Fuller brush salesman He's just a guy holding a suitcase at the door, and then the guy blows his fucking head off. And I was just thinking, that is how you stop a knock-knock joke. Forget who's there, just bang.
I honestly, first time I saw this movie, like the expression on the guy's face, the guy that knocked on the door, the zombie, who we discover afterwards was a zombie, he looked more like he was about to say, I really need to use your bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't look like he was there to eat anybody. He looked like he was just there to be like, hi, can you let me in? The weather's shit. My car broke down. You know, something.
And once again, I don't know if you noticed this, he was holding a briefcase.
Yeah.
So apparently, yeah, in Italy, if you die, they just bury you with one of your belongings.
Whatever you were holding on to, they fucking, it's yours.
They should have, like, the busload of Boy Scouts that died, they should have just, like, you know, buried them all, just left them in the bus and just buried the entire bus.
Yeah, that should have been what caused the earthquake.
Oh,
it shouldn't have been a single motorcycle.
That, by the way, folks. Apparently, if you zombies plus motorcycles creates earthquakes.
Yeah. One would think that at least like the bus would have caused the earthquake, because that's a lot of land being moved around. I mean, like, that would have been a fucking... Of course, that would have actually created some sort of conflict and story.
Yep. And I don't know what type of motorcycle that was, what brand, but apparently they're really good, because even after surviving a crash and being buried, like, with 6 feet of dirt, they still start fine, and they're powerful enough that they can burst through the ground.
While separating the earth.
This movie was so crazy.
Ugh. Any other dislikes, or can we move on?
No, we can move on. I think we've said enough of this.
Oh.
You got to see it to believe it. Like, even though there's like some just... Obviously, we talked about some ridiculousness. I gotta recommend it. You do at least once have to watch this movie.
It's worth it for the tits.
Yeah, if nothing else, just look at this girl. She is just ridiculously beautiful.
Yeah, okay, if you want to know, like, how beautiful can this girl be? I mean, like, there's so many pretty girls in movies. She is Italian and Finnish. So, you know...
Actor and model.
Yeah, so that's all you need to know. Italian and Finnish. Basically, if Sophia Loren was, like, reincarnated, despite the fact that she's probably still alive... Oh, she died recently, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so if Sophia Loren just went back in time, brought in her earliest, hottest self, and then got a boob job.
Mm. So, one thing I'm curious about in this movie, is this the only cemetery in this entire town or city or whatever it was?
Yeah, usually towns don't usually have one cemetery. One would think that there would be a second cemetery, and if so, do they have the same problem? Mm-hmm. Luckily, that question is answered, because that's exactly what I found in a deleted scene online.
Really? You know, it always seems that when I have a question about some kind of plot point in a movie, you always seem to have an answer for me.
Well, that's because I'm a good co-host.
You are. I agree.
Yeah, so we get to answer the question of what the hell happened in the other cemetery in this week's It Came from the Cutting Room Floor.
Another late night. Why do we do this so late anyway?
Hey, you want to be doing all this shoveling under the hot sun? Besides, there's no one around to see you stab him in the head before covering them up.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of which, did you hear what that nut Dellamorte does on the other cemetery? He actually waits for the corpses to come back and then shoots them.
What? Wouldn't those gunshots be heard all over town? What if one of the zombies got away? That guy's just asking for trouble, carrying a gun around everywhere like it's the Wild West.
Exactly. Our way is much easier. Stab them in the head before you bury them. No muss, no fuss. You think one of them over there would have figured that out by now.
And by them, are you referring to that assistant of his? Have you tried explaining anything to that guy? That dimwit isn't going to learn anything. Did you hear he puked on the mayor's daughter right before she got killed? Idiot.
Oh, yeah. She was in an accident, right? With her boyfriend on his motorcycle? Got run over by a busload of Boy Scouts, I heard. took her head clean off.
Yeah, get this. They actually buried the boyfriend with his motorcycle.
Well, that's just stupid.
Yeah, everyone knows zombies plus motorcycles equals earthquakes.
Of course. That's just common sense.
Well, it's his mess to deal with.
What was that?
Ah! How is this possible? Didn't you stab his brain?
Me? I thought you did it.
No, I did it last time.
I'm pretty sure I did. Ah! Shoot it! Shoot it! Shoot it!
With what? I don't have a gun. Quick! Shovels! Bash it!
Okay. Okay. Maybe we should make a schedule or something so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, a good idea. Okay. Let's bury him again, I guess.
Right. Which grave?
Maybe we should start looking for the one with the big hole in it. It's always under one of those mandragola trees.
Right. Yeah, that explains the roots. But you did stab this guy in the brain, right?
Again, I thought you did.
Well, I guess we better dig him up and do it now then.
Yeah, let's do it quick. I don't want to miss Ruota della Fortuna or Viana Bianca. The way she turns those tiles. And my crank.
Yeah. Speaking of turning cranks, did you happen to see the new mayor's assistant? Va-va-voom.
See her? Oh, I made out with her last night.
Really? How was that?
It got weird. She wanted me to cut my dick off.
What? Why?
Apparently she's afraid of them.
Well, what did you say?
I told her to fuck off.
Yeah, well, that's a perfectly normal response. Le famille sono pazzi.
Oh, they really do be crazy. Besides, there's a hooker in town that looks just like her. You know, if I ever need some action, all I need to do is show up with my checkbook and I'm in. And from what I've heard, she's not afraid of dicks. By the way, the other day I was at Dellamorte's place, and I swear, a statue of the Grim Reaper came to life and started talking to me. Told me to shoot people in the fucking head.
What? For real?
I don't know if it was real or not. Those morons were burning a pile of something, and I got hit by a big cloud of it. I mean, I could have been high as fuck.
Well, what did you do?
I told them to fuck off.
Oh, well, okay. Oh, by the way, so what was the mayor doing here earlier?
He wanted me to sign some pledge or a promise that, like, to not to say anything about the dead coming back to life, or to just deny that they're doing it.
So what'd you tell him?
I'll give you 3 guesses.
Oh, fuck off?
Nailed it in 1.
That seems to be your go-to.
Well, it works for me. You don't like it? You can fuck off. So, that's what happened.
There it is, yeah.
With so many bodies being blasted and thrown around, I don't even know if I could do a kill of the week. But I think
you gotta do a kill of the week. Come on.
It's part of the show, I guess. So
You gotta have something for us.
okay, my kill of the week. I was hoping my kill of the week would be when Nagi finally dies, because he smashes his head on the dashboard. I mean, like, I don't know if they didn't have seatbelts in Italian cars in the 90s, but this guy, like, slits his fucking head open on the dashboard. Like, it's just, like, nearly pissing blood, and I'm thinking, oh, great, we finally get to see him die. But no, it only makes him smart. So...
Cognitive realignment, I think they call that.
That's
yes, he
the name
smashes his head into the dashboard at the end of the movie in another what the fuck scene.
Yeah, because, oh yeah, here's the ending. He drives out of town because he can't even get arrested for mass murder. So he just decides, fuck this, fuck the cemetery, fuck everything, I'm taking off. Nagi goes with him on a road trip. They leave through this tunnel, and then he ends up slamming the brakes, which causes the said concussion, head-splitting injury. Because, surprise, the road ends in a massive ravine, and only ahead of him is just water and mountain and a massive valley, because apparently there is no other spot in the world. This town is completely isolated. All the roads, all the electricity, everything just comes from the town itself, because it's the only vestige of humanity.
Apparently, this whole thing takes place in the snow globe.
Yeah. So,
But anyway, we're getting off track.
Yeah.
Your kill.
My kills kill. Oh, that should be my new name on the show. My kill.
I'm not calling you that.
All right. So, well, I tried. So, my kill of the week is when he finds the third reincarnation of Big Titty Summerglow, and he fucks the hell out of her, and he says like, "Oh, this may not work because I took some medicine," and then afterwards she's just like, "Your medicine's not working." That was a good line. And then he meets her roommate that he picked her up with, and she's like, "By the way, that'll be like 100,000 lira." And he's like, "What?" But she said she loved me. "Oh, that's 150,000. But she asked me to spend the night. Oh, that's 200,000. Like, basically shaking him the fuck down. So he writes her a check, and I'm just thinking, oh, you unbelievable cocksucker, just fucking get out or kill them. And what does he do? He gets out after killing them, because he takes her bed heater, puts it in the bed, drapes the silk sheet over it so it catches fire, and then it just shows him in his VW as the fire reflection is in his windshield, and you hear screaming and hollering and crying, and he's just like, yep.
So he hooks up with a girl that looks like his love. You know, the third time we see this a girl that looks exactly like the original girl. And when he finds out that she's a prostitute, he burns her house down.
Well, she kind of, I mean, like, if she told him I'm a prostitute before banging him, then he's got no right. But if you pull this shit where you just like, oh, by the way, now that you've banged me, you owe me thousands of dollars, I'd be like, you know what? I can see burning them alive. It's justifiable homicide in my book.
And what about this? Imagine this. He hooks up with this girl, and I think he leaves her room to go get a drink. That's when he meets up with her roommate. And she starts talking about price. What about the girl that he hooked up with had no idea about this, and this was just her roommate thinking, oh, this is a way I can get some money.
Yeah, she's just like trying to like pimp her out, but without her awareness.
Exactly.
Well, then he's a kind of an asshole for killing her too.
Yeah, that puts a bit of a different spin on the whole thing.
I did consider that. Like, what if she's just being a real cunt and she's just like trying to whore out her friend without her awareness? She's not even going to cut her in on it later.
Yeah.
She'll just be like, by the way, I'm moving out. I came into some money. Really? When was that? Oh, like when you were sleeping.
Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of good kills in this movie, but that one was at least, it was funny. It was funny, terrifying, and that, I think, was the actual first person he killed when he started to go crazy.
No, because he had already done the 7 people kill after getting that vision of the leaves and the burnt paper.
Oh shit! Okay, that was afterwards. Never mind.
Okay.
Don't listen to me.
And he has this odd fascination with phone books.
Yeah.
Like, Hodor throws a bunch of books into a fire. Why is he making a fire in the middle of the graveyard, by the way?
Who the hell knows why?
I guess
who knows why
like,
anything is happening on this movie?
I mean, like, was he burning leaves?
I don't know.
And then Hodor throws out his phone books. And he's just like, you can't just throw out old phone books because the new ones came in. And he's like, Hodor?
Our young listeners, back before cell phones and the internet, if you want to look up somebody's number, there used to actually be giant books that had everybody's listing inside.
In a massive book, but luckily you didn't have to pay for it because it came free.
No, you got it for free.
And now you have it in your phone.
There you go.
That's progress. So then Death appears in the burnt up ashes of the phone book and tells him, you know, if you don't want the dead coming back, just kill the living. Which doesn't make any sense because you create more dead. But yeah, that's when he goes driving out on his first killing spree.
Yeah, you're right.
Then he burns the bitch alive, and then the cop comes along, and he's like, by the way, I found this burnt up check that you wrote in the apartment of 2 people that were burned up. Oh.
like I said earlier, I've seen this movie like 4 times. I still don't know what the hell is going on. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and then it turns out, oh, by the way, I don't think it was you because the real killer confessed. And then he goes to visit the hospital, and it turns out it's his buddy who's in the hospital. And I still don't know why. Like, he killed his family.
Yep.
That we never see. And then when he asks why, the guy's just like, why would I answer you? I don't know you.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying about this movie. It's so surreal. You, at the end of this movie, you have no idea if any of the stuff that was happening actually even happened.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm done talking about this movie. How about you?
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah. So, Cemetery Man, see it, but we warned you.
Yeah. Watch at your own risk. So, before we finish off, just have a few more things to tell you about this movie. Actually, more about the director of this movie, just as a little bonus information for you this week. Actually, and it actually goes back, the first thing actually goes back to the cutting room floor that we did. It never really comes up in the movie why the dead are coming back as zombies. Not ever explained, but years after this movie came out, the director, Michel Sauvé, said in an interview that the reason the zombies are reanimating is because of the mandragola roots in the cemetery. And that actually explains why some of the zombies you see actually have roots wrapped around them, or in some cases actually through them.
Yeah, they always look like almost like forest.
Mm-hmm.
Like forest nymph zombies.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that they mentioned that the mandragora roots, because that is like a witch's ingredient from old medieval folklore. Like the mandrake roots are always associated with screaming when you pluck them out of the ground, and I think there's also like a legend like anyone who hears a mandrake scream when it's plucked out of the ground will drop dead.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, so it's got like a rich lore in Europe. So, it would have been a nice addition to the movie. Funny how it had to show up in our deleted scene. The one grain of truth that actually does explain something.
Yeah, that's right. So, also something, this was an executive decision on the director's part. An American company was actually willing to fund and distribute this movie if Matt Dillon was giving the lead role.
Matt Dillon.
But Sauvé flat out refused. Didn't even consider it right off the bat. He said, no, he wouldn't be right for this role.
Yeah, there's like not a good idea what those friggin' horse teeth of his.
Mm-hmm. And
he got to do something about Mary just a year or two later, so don't worry about him. He did okay.
That was a more fitting role for him, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this one is actually really sad. This is the final piece of information I have about Cemetery Man. After his movie was done, it was actually 5 years before Sauvé directed another movie because he had a child that was terminally ill, and he wanted to spend as much time taking care of his child before he passed away, before his child passed away. Oh. So, and it was actually 5 years before he stepped on a movie set again.
Did he make sure that he was dead?
Oh God.
You got a little too somber. I had to go nuclear.
Oh, that's so insensitive, but I'm sure he's listening to this podcast and he's furious.
Those two pezzo de cazzo. I'ma fucking ruin them.
Oh, I'm certain that our podcast is world famous. I'm sure that includes Italy.
I don't think we'll be welcome in Italy after this. we lost that Italian sponsorship.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all the movie content we have for this episode, but we're not done just yet. We want to hear from you. If you have a movie suggestion for us, like our fan Darren did with this episode, you can certainly send that to us. Or if you just want to say hi, have some criticism, some comments, whatever it is, we want to hear from you. You can get in contact with us through email at graveyardshiftpod@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on Twitter at GYS_horrorpod, or you can check us out on Facebook at The Graveyard Shift Pod. And if you wanted to support the show, there's a few ways of doing so. You can always send us gifts of money. We're okay with that. If you'd like to make a monetary donation, you can do so at www.patreon.com/graveyard. And that's a good way to do it because we are working to get some nice Patreon exclusive bonus content for you. So if you want to hear more of us, that'll be a good way to do it. But of course, if you just want to make a one-time donation, you can do it through PayPal. Just use our email address. Again, is graveyardshiftpod@gmail.com. And if you just can't get enough of Mike's sweet, seductive voice, you can always check him out on his other podcasts. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yep, the Playing with Power podcast, where there's actually another worse, more vulgar version of me on the show that goes by the name of John. And him and our friend Ben, we all read Nintendo Power magazine and do shameful discussions about it. And then other things.
There's your disclaimer, folks. That's the only warning you're getting. No, it is great.
You're on your own.
If you were a fan of Nintendo Power back in the day, or just a fan of retro video games, I think you're going to like that one. So check that out.
Just don't expect the family-friendly version.
Absolutely not. And that's it for us, except for one thing before we go. Mike, how about you tell them what we have in store for next week?
Well, we have another fan pick, The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be confused with The Shinning.
No. Do you want to get sued? So until next time, I'm Sheldon.
And I'm Mike.
And we'll see you next time on The Graveyard Shift. Ba-bam. If you'd like to make a monetary... Tonight's episode of the Graveyard Shift Horror Podcast is brought to you by Jack Daniels.